Dr. Oz, who famously spent years talking fake cures and dubious weight loss supplements on his daytime TV audience, is now facing one of the worst scandals yet. Far beyond his history of being questioned over the efficacy of his supplements in Congress, there is new reporting that research he had done had actually led to the deaths of hundreds of animals. A review of 75 studies published by Mehmet Oz between 1989 and 2010 reveals the Republican Senate candidate's research had killed over 300 dogs and inflicted significant suffering on them and other animals used in his experiments. So, look, I got to give you like a warning on this story because, I mean, just the amount of cruelty here, it's horrifying to listen to. So, again, if you're sensitive to this, you might not want to listen to this next part here. So now Oz, with that warning, Oz was a principal investigator at Columbia University Institute of Comparative Medicine Labs. So now, here's the thing. Why isn't Columbia being called out for this, for the cruelty that happened under Oz? Surely there were people that were keeping him in check, right? No, it turns out he actually had assumed full scientific, administrative, and fiscal responsibility for the conduct of his studies. So he was completely in charge of all of this. So this purview was him. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that he was the one doing all of the experiments and literally murdering the puppies, but it was under his purview. He knew exactly what was going on. So, more details. Over the course of the 75 studies published in academic journals reviewed by Jezebel, Oz's team conducted experiments on at least 1,027 live animal subjects that included dogs, pigs, calves, rabbits, small rodents. 34 of these experiments resulted in the deaths of at least 329 dogs, while 2 of his experiments killed 31 pigs. 38 experiments killed 661 rabbits and rodents. I mean, that is a huge death toll that you have. Look, as somebody who loves animals, it's utterly disgusting. Now, in the early 2000s, testimony from a whistleblower and veterinarian named Catherine Delotoro about Dr. Oz's research detailed extensive suffering inflicted on his team's canine test subjects, including multiple violations of the Animal Welfare Act, which sets minimum standards of care for dogs, cats, primates, rabbits, and other animals in the possession of animal dealers and laboratories. I mean, why does animal testing exist in the first place? Horrifying. Horrifying. Now, the law specifically requires researchers and breeders to use pain-relieving drugs or euthanasia on the animals and not use paralytics without anesthesia or experiment multiple times on the same animal. Dell'Orto testified that a dog experimented on by Oz's team had experienced lethargy, vomiting, paralysis, and kidney failure, but was not euthanized for a full 2 days. Another was kept alive for a month for continued experimentation, despite her unstable, painful condition, and despite how data from her continued experimentation was not even usable. So that animal suffered needlessly for a month, repeated experimentations for nothing, no reason at all. I mean, again, even if there was a reason, there's still no justification for this. According to Dell'Orto, one Oz-led study resulted in a litter of puppies being killed by intracardiac injection with syringes filled with expired drugs, inserted into their hearts without sedation. Upon being killed, the puppies were allegedly left in a garbage bag with the other living puppies who were their litter mates. Monstrous. Horribly monstrous. There are no words for this. You threw the living puppies in a bag as if they're garbage, trash to be thrown out. These are living creatures. Now, look, Dell'Orto's allegations that have been along for a long time. They were made in 2003 and 2004, and they're detailed in letters from PETA to the university and USDA. In an interview with Billy Penn this last month, she acknowledged, and I think this is important, that PETA is not a reliable source of information. PETA has had his own issues, for sure, and I'm glad she's made that distinction because, wow, they're pretty cringe. That said, she said, look, even though PETA is not a reliable source of information, as I said, these letters reflected what she had told the organization and him had even provided documentation for. She says, everything that I told them was absolutely true, and they actually did report on it true. And they didn't have to make anything up because it was already horrifying. As a result of this, in May 2004, Columbia University was ordered to pay a total, by the USDA, $2,000 penalty. That's it. $2,000. Just a little tiny bit of money for all these violations of the Animal Welfare Act. The fine paid by Columbia was the result of the settlement between the university and the USDA based on the findings of Columbia's internal investigation of Oz's research, which, as she points out, Dell'Orto points out, was not good enough. That investigation was very limited in scope and did not find the vast majority of horrifying things, the torture that he did to these animals. Now, the USDA accepted these findings, but again, according to Dell'Orto, the review was faulty and had investigators in the committee that were also complicit in this type of poorly designed, cruel animal experimentation. Dell'Orto also noted that while Oz wasn't the one who euthanized the dogs and puppies himself, when your name is on the experiment and the way the experiment is designed inflicts such cruelty to these animals, by design, there's a problem. And look, Columbia is even worse because months after paying the fine, in December 2004, Columbia defended Oz amid the animal abuse allegations, calling him a quote-unquote highly respected researcher and clinician who had adhered to the highest standards of animal care, but neglected to deny any of the specific allegations Dell'Orto had made against Oz. Now, of course, Columbia had since distanced themselves from Oz because of his campaign. They should have distanced themselves from them long, long ago. They actually defended him. Horrifying. On Monday, Jezebel reached out to Columbia's Office of Communications and Public Affairs, as well as Oz's Senate campaign. They refused to comment. And Oz's campaign had yet to respond. So, I mean, there's that. Oz, by the way, had formerly held senior positions, including vice chair of surgery and director of integrated medicine at that medical center. So, look, this is what he did. This is what his, research entailed. And it was filled, no surprise, with animal abuse. I mean, again, I say it's not a surprise because, look, if you're willing to do this to animals, well, then it would explain why you would also sell all this snake oil to human beings. He doesn't care about anyone except for himself and for his own wealth. These people are absolute sociopaths, and they show it. They don't care about people. They certainly don't care about animals. And this just, once again, proves it. So much damning information, absolutely horrifying. And look, even though this is far from the only thing that Dr. Oz has done that is incredibly questionable and just downright terrible. In my mind, this is the absolute worst thing. As again, an animal lover, I'm just absolutely horrified by the information in this. What he has done.